The biggest story in the college football world right now are the Colorado Buffaloes under Deion Sanders taking on the TCU Horned Frogs and knocking them off in Fort Worth. So, are we overreacting after one game? Will Colorado make a bowl game this year? They won one game last year. They've already matched that win total after 1 year, after 1 week in 2023. So, let me know in the comments, will Colorado make a bowl game? Week 1 of college football is in the books, minus the Clemson Duke game, which, by the way, I kind of like Duke plus 13. But we are going to run through some quarterback power rankings after that first week. And no offense to Cade Klubnik, I don't think he was going to be top 10 anyway. So let's proceed without the final game of week 1 and start at the number 10 spot, which is Penn State's Drew Allar. So a former 5-star commit out of Ohio goes over to Penn State, and he lit it up against West Virginia. 21 for 29, 325 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I have a feeling that it won't be too long until people in Happy Valley are wondering, why was he not starting last year over Sean Clifford? Because he has been sensational through practices, which just practices, but for a 5-star commit, and Penn State is not a program that usually starts raking in 5 stars. They usually turn 3 to 4 stars into 5-star guys before they go to the NFL draft. But Drew Allar so far has been everything that Penn State fans have been looking for, which is, a really good quarterback. Now, there is going to be a big-time showdown at the Horseshoe in Columbus week 8 when Drew goes back to his hometown state, and plays the Buckeyes in a game that Ohio State fans, if they end up losing, are going to be very mad at Ryan Day and company, because they're all saying, how did you let this 5-star QB leave the Buckeye State, go to a Big Ten rival? Meanwhile, Ohio State doesn't really have a clear-cut answer at the quarterback position moving forward. So this is definitely going to be a game to just circle calendars for. It's not until Saturday, October 21st. We've got some time, but week 8, it's going to be a fun showdown between Penn State and Ohio State, with Drew Allar going back to his hometown state. Moving on to the number 9 quarterback in my power rankings, I'm going to go with Quinn Ewers. So speaking of Ohio State quarterbacks, I guess, Quinn Ewers now in Austin for his second season, and in his first game against Rice, 19 for 30 this year, 260 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Texas offense got off to a bit of a slow start against Rice, but by the second half, they had kind of waken up and gone, you know what? It's week 1 of the college football season. We have some cobwebs to shake off, but no, we are not going to get App Stated like a certain school up north did. We are going to take care of business against Rice, and we're going to remind everyone why we are a preseason top 10 ranked team. Now, Quinn Ewers last year, unfortunately, he had an injury pop up, so he didn't get to play the full season. But there were some ups and there were definitely some down moments for a former big-time commit. Under 60% completion percentage, 2,100 yards in 10 games, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Now, in Quinn Ewers' defense, every time he gave the ball to Bijan just ran to the end zone. So that kind of took away a lot of yards for Quinn to throw, because Bijan just picked up 80 yards every time he touched the football. But the big matchup in week 2 is Texas against Alabama, a rematch of the game we had last season in Austin, where it looked like Texas might shock the Crimson Tide, but a Quinn Ewers injury knocked him out for the remainder of the game, and Nick Saban's crew was able to hold on. This time might be a little bit different now that there's no Bryce Young in T-Town, plus Quinn Ewers hopefully will play all 4 quarters, and we could get an all-time classic between number 11 Texas and number 4 Alabama. But who you got in this game? Texas or Alabama? Producer Coop is a big Texas guy, so I know he's typing his T for Texas. As a Tennessee grad, I'm definitely pulling for Texas, because there's nothing I hate more than Alabama. But there might be a bit of a rude, rude welcoming for Texas as they get ready to play more SEC opponents. I think Alabama's going to take care of business at home. Moving on to the number 8 quarterback in my power rankings after week 1. How about J.J. McCarthy? So the Michigan star QB led his team nearly all the way to the championship game last year, if not for TCU in the semifinals. But J.J. against East Carolina with no Harbaugh on the sideline was nearly perfect. 26 for 30. So the accuracy is there for sure. 280 yards, 3 touchdowns. The Wolverines offense got out to a bit of a slow start. They are definitely a ground team at heart, but JJ began connecting with Roman Wilson down the field, began making some big-time throws, and he began looking like a quarterback that's not just going to be a professional handoffer at the college level, but he can make some big-time throws and make some big-time plays with his arm, which we saw down the stretch last year, especially in that Ohio State game and into the TCU game, and that is continuing into this season. Last year, 2,700 yards and 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. McCarthy looks to be picking up where he left off, and Michigan's going to have a really good offense with their running back crew and J.J. McCarthy at the driver's seat. All right, moving on to number 7, Bo Nix, former Auburn quarterback, now entering, year 2, year 3 with Oregon. Some of these guys at college football, it's just ridiculous how long they have been in college football for. But Bo Nix, they in Oregon basically played the school of deaf and blind. No offense to Portland State University, whatever it is. But it was not much of a challenge for Bo Nix. 23 of 27, 287 yards, and 3 touchdowns. When you play an FCS opponent and you clean up as you should, I'm not going to come out of that game thinking your stock is going to go up or down much. I had Bo Nix right around the number 5, number 6 spot going into the season, and taking care of business as you should against Portland State is not going to move the needle a whole lot for me. Now, when we look at Oregon's schedule, though, they got some pretty big games coming up, right? Week 2, going to Lubbock, Texas, who just got shocked in Laramie against the Cowboys. They go on the road for that one. They've got Hawaii at home, and then they've got Deion Sanders and the Buffs coming to town week 4. That could be a big-time ranked matchup, all before going to Stanford, and then they're off, and then they've got a big road matchup at a currently ranked Washington Huskies team. Now, before we get to the rest of my top 10 college quarterback rankings, power rankings, make sure to subscribe. That way you don't miss any more college football content we have coming out. Plus, if we pick up more subscribers off of our college football videos, YouTube actually lets us know where we get our subscribers from, believe it or not. We can then take that data, go to our bosses, and say, get us more time to get more college football content out there. The people want it. So help us do that by clicking that subscribe button. Number 6 on my QB power rankings, I'm going to go with Notre Dame Sam Hartman. First-year quarterback in South Bend after a long stint in Wake Forest, and he was prolific against, granted, Tennessee State. 33 for 40, 445 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He's a bit of a grandpa on the field. Sam Hartman is entering year 6, year 7. Year 7? That doesn't even seem possible. So he's almost done college twice at this point. So it should be a little bit easy for him, not just going up against Tennessee State at any point in his career, but also when you're in your second lap of college. Now, Sam Hartman at Wake Forest, 48 games, 12,967 yards, 110 touchdowns, and 41 interceptions. I was always a big fan of Sam Hartman after watching him on that Netflix quarterback show, and great to see him have a great, very successful career at Wake Forest. And now he's got a chance to really compete at Notre Dame for more than just ACC runner-up, no offense to the Demon Deacons. So Sam Hartman off to a very good start with his new team at Notre Dame. Now we move on to our number 5 quarterback on my rankings, and that is someone we all watched last night, Jordan Travis. You might notice there's no LSU background or logo. That's a bit of a hot take. I like Jordan Travis a lot, and my, take on Jaden Daniels is I'm fading him at the moment. But Jordan Travis, last night against LSU was 23 for 31, 342 yards, 4 touchdowns. Granted, 1 interception, and not a good interception either. But Jordan Travis against a well-coached, LSU team under Brian Kelly, he just beat the crap out of them in the second half. He did what he had to get done. FSU's defense definitely was playing some complimentary football, but Jordan Travis is coming off a very successful 2022 campaign. He threw for 3,214 yards, 64% completion percentage, 24 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So Jordan Travis looking to build off of what was a very good 2022 outing, and we are seeing that starting off early in 2023, not against Tennessee State or Portland State, but against an LSU team that was one of the best teams in the SEC last year. Now, before we get on to the rest of my QB power rankings, our sportsbook partner BetUS has a deal of a lifetime for our viewers. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code CHAT125. When you do those two things, they give you a 125% deposit bonus. So if you deposit $100, they'll match that. And then because they love you so much, they're going to give you an extra $25. Now, there are some really fun bets you can have on BetUS, but the one I'm looking at right now is the college football title odds. I don't think Georgia three-peats. They do not give me three-peat vibes with the new quarterback. I'm not buying into that. That gives Alabama, who I think is kind of regressing, but you should never bet against Nick Saban. Michigan, Ohio State. I feel like this could be the year that maybe one of those two Big Ten schools finally kind of breaks through the ice and brings back a national championship to Big Ten country. So plus 700, plus 800 odds, that's pretty good value right now. If you put $10 down, you're going to win 70 or 80 bucks on one of those two schools. So make all your picks using our link and promo code at the bottom of the screen. Now, this might be a bit of an overreaction after just 1 week of college football, but I'm going to go with Drake Maye at number 4. Now, most people unanimously had him at number 2, so it's not a big long fall for Drake Maye, and I bet he's going to bounce back from this. But for now, I do have him at number 4 because against South Carolina and the Gamecocks, he was 24 for 32, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Got off to a really good start, but a sloppy second half where he threw a pair of picks and he nearly let South Carolina get back into the game, if not for the Gamecocks' horrid offensive line. They gave up 9 sacks. That might have been a much closer contest. But Drake Maye at number 4 is not because he was bad or really against South Carolina. It's more so a testament to all the other quarterbacks that were awesome in week 1. And I can't quite put Drake Maye at number 2 after seeing what these next two guys did in our first real week of college football. So, with that being said, we move on to the number 3 player on my QB power rankings. It is up in the Pacific Northwest, Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix, you talk about guys that have been in college football for a long time. He is a grandfather of college football. And against Boise State, who is probably the best, I feel like, of all the non-power, I can't even say Power 5, Major 5, whatever it is. Boise State's a very, competitive team to play against. That's what I'm trying to say here. And against the Broncos, 29 for 40, 450 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Now, when you compare what Michael Penix was able to do what Michael Penix was able to do at his time in Indiana and then at Washington, I mean, he's played in 7 fewer games. He has nearly 1,000 more yards. He has 7 more touchdowns in 7 fewer games. But most importantly, look at the interceptions. The interceptions went down from 15 to 8. Michael Penix definitely saw a big boost and a big bump going over to Seattle to play for the Huskies. And in fewer games, it is paying off, and he is one of the best college football quarterbacks out there right now. No question about it. Now, what I want to know from everyone watching is, who is the second best QB in college football? We all know who number 1 is. We don't have to ask that question. But after Caleb Williams, who do you have as number 2? Is it Drake Maye? Is it Michael Penix? Or is it this next guy here? Coming from Colorado, Boulder, Shedeur Sanders. He lit the college football world on fire on Saturday in Fort Worth against the national runner-ups last season, the TCU Horned Frogs. Sanders was 38 for 47, 510 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Now, of course, there were a lot of stars in this game on Colorado's sideline, but Deion Sanders' very own son was definitely one of the brightest stars of all of them. You look at what he was able to do, which was history in his first game, right? Against TCU, 510 yards. The most in Colorado history for a single game passing yards. Beat Hanson back in 2011 against Cal, who threw for 474 yards. Oh, it's a sensational start to your college football career in Colorado, where you set the single game passing record for school history. I am going to say I'm kind of smelling a bit of a letdown loss coming up in week 2 against Nebraska. I feel like everyone is ready to crown Colorado as the CFB darlings for 2023. Meanwhile, Nebraska, maybe they are just sick and tired of all these one-score losses. And with a little bit of extra time to get ready for this game against Colorado, an old rival of theirs, it could be an all-time upset brewing between CU and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Moving on to the number one quarterback, it is without a doubt Caleb Williams. The reigning Heisman winner was perfect. And I literally mean perfect in his not quite debut, but in the first week of college football, where against Nevada, he went 36 for 49, 597 yards. We just talked about Sanders throwing for 510 and setting a school record. Meanwhile, Caleb Williams casually going for 597 yards, and that's not even the craziest stat. 9 touchdowns. 9 touchdowns in one game. Now, in case you're wondering, the single game record for passing touchdowns was set by some Houston quarterback in the 90s where he threw 11 scores. But still, Caleb Williams is Caleb Williams. And it leads me to this. Do you think he's going to win back-to-back Heisman trophies? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. It's only been done once. It was done by an Ohio State running back, Archie Griffin, back in the 1970s. So this could be some history in the making here. After just very small sample size, I don't know who's dethroning Caleb Williams. And we do this every single year where we kind of buy in way too early in the Heisman frontrunners, and then some dark horse emerges in the middle of the season. But for now, I'm going with Caleb Williams to run it back-to-back Heismans.